What is going on? I am Sarah Pettis, body positive intuitive eating coach and the founder of turnupthelove.ca, and I thank you for joining me for another episode of Turn Up the Love Live. Now, before we get started, I wanted to wish you a very happy, super blue blood full moon. Yeah, that's a mouthful, I know. So I hope you are having a great full moon today. The vibes are high. If you're emotional, I get it. I'm with you. And there's a lot of clearing going on because it's also eclipse season. So there's a lot happening up there in our astral plane. So be calm and patient and gentle with yourself. But if you are someone who is struggling right now currently with food and your body, I think that this will be a very enlightening conversation for you, as I'm going to be talking about a lot of things that I've never addressed before about the dieting industry. I'll give you a hint. It's mostly political. So you'll hear more about that tonight, but I thank you for joining in on the live conversation. So if you're here for the very first time, again, like I said, I'm Sarah Pettis. I am a body positive intuitive eating coach and the founder of turnupthelove.ca. And what I do is I help serial dieters, mostly women, I don't really work with men, but women who are serial dieters, to stop obsessive calorie tracking, exercising for punishment, feeling guilty around food, and self-critical body bashing by teaching them how to trust food and their bodies again. And if you've been hanging out with me for the last couple of weeks, you'll know that we've been talking all about ditching diets in 2018, because for the month of January, it is all about National Dieting Month. The dieting industry loves to push weight loss and food programs and eating clean and all of the rules on us in 2018, telling us that we need to change and this can be our best year yet and get the bikini body you want and all the mumbo jumbo talk that they like to chat about. And I just want to say today is the very last day of National Dieting Month. Thank goodness we made it to the end. So if you've made it this far, 31 days total, without starting a new diet, without starting a new workout routine, without following all the rules, I just want to give you a mega round of applause, because it is no easy task. And you deserve to give yourself the biggest hug ever, because I know that diet talk can get super loud. Hopefully the Facebook Lives I've been doing for this past month have been helping you through that conversation that you've been kind of seeing online or in your day-to-day life, everywhere that you go, right? So this week, we're actually going to be wrapping up this conversation that's been centered around ditching diets. And today we're going to be finishing things off by talking about the normalization of diets and what that really looks like in today's culture and society, okay? So if you are someone who has been stuck in the mud of dieting, if you've been using weight loss as your motivation, or you're someone who knows that you've been dieting for quite some time, but you have no idea where to go next and how to handle that, then you're absolutely in the right place today, and I think you're going to want to stick around for this conversation further. Because let's be honest, the diet industry is getting away with a ton of terrible things. They really, really are. And I really want to spread this message. It's so incredibly important that we get this out here because, like I said, it's political. And I'm going to talk more about that today. But I need your help with spreading this message. So if you know anyone who has been stuck in the mud of dieting, who may not know that they're even in this war with their body and food, and they've been repeating these same cycles over and over of either binging and restriction, or beating themselves up about how they look, always following the number on the scale, constantly starting new health regimes, or regimens, they're exercising for punishment rather than for joy, then please share this video with them, because I think it can be really helpful and really profound. And a lot of the times when we are stuck in the mud of dieting, we don't even know And I'm going to mention a little bit about my story and how I had no idea that I was even in a world of dieting when I was in it, right? Because it was an alternative universe to me to like talk about intuitive eating. I didn't even know what that was at the time. So because you're so self-aware, I would really appreciate it if you look out for your fellow soul sisters and send this along, okay? So why don't we get this conversation started? Like I said, today we're going to be talking about how to toss out the idea that diets are quote unquote normal, because let's face it, they are the furthest thing from normal, okay? We're also going to be breaking down the reasons why the Women's March was so incredibly impactful for me this year. I'm also going to be sharing some thoughts that I've never shared before about the dieting industry that I think you guys are going to find to be really enlightening. And that includes why we should actually be raising our children as feminists, male and females included, and what exactly this even has to do with diet culture. Okay, so that's totally something I've never even mentioned before. The next thing is I really want to get into how dieting actually works to be this big, massive distraction from your life. And it really keeps us from experiencing the things that are actually really important in this lifetime and the time that we spend here on earth, okay? And then lastly, but definitely not least, I want to address what you need to know about diets and the diet industry being sneaky manipulators. So stinking smart that sometimes we don't even know that we're being manipulated. So if that sounds like something you can get down with and you want all of the enlightenment, then stay tuned, okay? But before we get into all the juiciness of tonight and what I have to talk about, I want to start off by asking you a question, like I always do on the show. So let's start off this conversation, kick things off by you answering this. How would you define a diet? If you could describe what a diet is, how would you define that? What does that look like in your eyes? And while you guys are writing that in, I'm just going to jump into the comments here. So we have Rochelle on. Thank you so much for joining, Rochelle. She says, enlighten me, gal. All right, I'm on it. We're going to do some enlightening talk today. I'm telling you that because I'm feeling pretty fired up from this moon energy. So I feel like it's the perfect time to talk about it. So Rochelle says, a diet to her looks like any sort of restriction. Bingo bango. Yeah, you got it. It totally is restriction in all forms. Absolutely. So dieting for me, what it used to look like was populated meal plans. It used to look like a long list of foods you couldn't have because they were quote unquote bad for you. It meant cutting things out, restriction, like Rochelle said, and having a hell of a lot of willpower and denying yourself from what you really actually wanted to be eating. It also looked like a lot of diet food. So think like lean cuisines, slim fasts, Weight Watchers. I totally grew up in that era. And although I was like somewhat right there when I was thinking that that's what dieting was, here's where I actually went wrong. So when I was working in the weight loss industry, I worked for Canada's largest weight loss company for 4 years. I actually managed my own store. And what that really looked like for me was working for a corporation that was so easily manipulating their staff and training them to believe that what they were selling was actually health, when really it was like dieting to the absolute core. They were also selling it as like a lifestyle change, like a balanced lifestyle change. But here's the thing. Here's what they were doing. What they would do is they would actually push thousands, and I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars worth of weight loss products on their clients. So we were trained how to sell products and basically find certain pain points in our clients and push products on them as the solution. Yeah, no, that is definitely part of a diet, right? You don't need to use products, especially for weight loss. It's ridiculous. They would also control the amount of food that someone was eating by using food allotments that were mathematically set up around calories. So really it was calorie counting, big time. So that obviously is not a healthy lifestyle change. Plus, they weighed people every single day. Every single day that they would come into an appointment, they would weigh them and take their measurements at least once a month. So clients were stepping on the scale, and if they were coming in like 3 days a week, well, there might not be a change. I mean, we're women, right? What if we're on our period that week? We're having our cycle. What if we're bloated? What if we've just had drinking a liter of water? Like constantly stepping on the scale. And then we would like write down if they were up or down and have a discussion on whether they were good or bad that day. That is like dieting to the ultimate core, right? And when the company went bankrupt, best ever. I was like so happy when the company went bankrupt. Like, go figure. Lost my job, and I'm like, yeah, suckers, you guys deserve it. When the company actually went bankrupt and I was actually free and out of this corporate world, that's when I really began to see the truth behind what dieting really looked like and the tricks and the crap that the dieting industry really uses, how they use those insecurities from people as a way of selling and manipulating them to buy their products and services. It's a really messed up industry, but I'm really glad that I experienced that firsthand, because I think that's what allowed me to be so friggin' passionate about what I teach, because I've seen it, I've been in it, right? So as you can see, even though they marketed it as one thing, what they were actually doing was the total opposite. And that's what I really want you guys to start paying attention to when you start thinking about diets. Remember that just because it's not necessarily marketed as a diet, that doesn't mean that it's not one. Okay, so that's just really what I want you to kind of put in your frame of mind as we kind of go through this conversation tonight. All right, so has there been, I want to ask you guys, has there been any like dieting realizations that you've had recently? Like programs or tools or tactics that you've used as ways to help you get healthy, but like you're kind of now seeing those things for really what they are, which is like another dieting tactic. Is there any realizations that you've had around that? If so, share what your realizations are in the comment section below, because I love hearing about this form of clarity that comes when you really start to shine like a really bright light on these situations and start to really narrow in on like what this industry really looks like. So I'd love to hear if you've had any of these realizations lately and what they are. So also, while you guys are kind of writing in on that, here's the thing that you probably don't know about dieting. Okay, hold on. Rochelle just wrote in here a comment. So she said Beachbody last spring. Now I feel like I was lied to. Yeah, Beachbody is a big one, Rochelle. I've had a lot of Beachbody reps, come and approach me and be like, oh yeah, like you should totally sell our shakes and like you should use that in your business. And I'm like, you do realize that like you're using meal replacement shakes and I would never sell. That's like the total opposite of what my business is, right? So yeah, I've been marketed by MLMs from Beachbody. So I totally know your frustration there, Rochelle, for sure. Yeah, it's frustrating. So again, like here's something you likely don't know about dieting that I really, 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 really wanted to talk to you guys about today, because I was recently inspired by the Women's March that happened a few weeks ago. And I was like, oh my God, like something just kind of went off in me. And I just like had this major clarity about the dieting industry and what it really comes down to. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard this before, but dieting is political. It is political. It is bigger than just the diet itself, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. But before I do, I want to share a quote with you that like really stuck out to me and really like made this point valid, okay? And here's what the quote was. A culture fixated on female thinness is not an obsession about female beauty, but an obsession about female obedience. Dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history. A quietly mad population is a tractable one. Naomi Wolf, from her book, The Beauty Myth. Oh, is that not like the most raw, juicy thing that you've ever heard? Like, when I read that, I was like, that is noteworthy. Like, that is, it just like really hits it home. What does that quote stir up in you guys? Like, does it really like hit home like it did for me? And what does it make you feel about diets and diet culture? And let me repeat it again for you, okay? A culture fixated on female thinness is not an obsession about female beauty, but an obsession about female obedience. Dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history. A quietly mad population is a tractable one. Thoughts? Thoughts, comments, questions, concerns? Because I had a whole bunch. When I read that, I was like, Naomi, you friggin' hit it home, like, hit it in the park, girl. Like, it was so incredibly deep. I absolutely love that quote. It holds so much power. It really, really, really holds a lot of power. And the reason why I like it is because it comes from this place of challenging and questioning the structured patriarchy systems that have been put into place. And like I said, after witnessing the Women's March that happened a couple of weeks ago, I came to this realization that food is political and dieting is friggin' political. And we absolutely have to start standing up and talking about politics and feminism if we hope to dismantle this diet culture and the patriarchy for good. We absolutely have to start talking about this, right? Because it's more than just it's more than just this idea of beauty. It's really this female obedience. It's women staying in these structured boxes of like following all the rules, right? It's way more than that. And we really need to be raising our children as feminists, male and female, if we want to beat this thing. We really have to. And we have to get rid of these predetermined conversations about how women have to do all of the things and follow all of the rules, right? If we really want to tackle this diet culture, it's important that we stand up to this and question these higher patriarchy systems that have been put into place, okay? Because here's the thing, generations of society before us have had these strong patriarchal themes. They've had them in place for years and years and years and years, right? And people who speak against feminism, people who speak against that and are like, oh, like, I am women, hear me roar. People who are afraid of that feminism are people who are typically scared of change. They're afraid of change. They've always known what they've always known, right? But most of all, what they're afraid of, the fear that's really underneath it all, is that they are actually scared and afraid that they're not going to hold the exact same importance as a person, like as another person, if their power of their gender is taken away. So what happens when women are suddenly equal with men? What happens then? I feel like a lot of people, they feel threatened by that. They're like, well, what's going to happen to me then? Right? But it's not one or the other. It's about working in an equal balance here. Yin and yang, sun and moon, women and female energies, right? Like we need to work in an equal balance, right? No one is going to be taken away, but we're going to find our common ground here, right? I also think what these people who are feeling fearful of this feminism rise is that they're afraid that women are actually going to tap into their goddamn power. They're afraid that women are going to tap into their power. And that power is what comes when your life isn't 100% consumed by frickin' dieting. When you are dieting, that is all you are thinking about and doing. Your life is consumed by the stuff. And that is why dieting is political. Because it is taking up way too much time for women. When we have way more important things that we need to be worrying about. And why should one group be in control of another? Why should the diet industry be able to control us in that way with that type of manipulation? This is political stuff, you guys, right? And why as a society, why are we giving them our birthright of making our own choices without these marketing schemes and being told how to feel and how to look, right? Dieting is not normal. Dieting is not normal. And that's going to bring me to my next point, talking about how dieting is a distraction. Because like I said, they're stripping away our power by taking all of our time and energy and putting it into diets when we could be focusing on way more important things, right? So jumping in the comments, Rochelle says epiphany right there. Oh, I'm so glad, because when I really watched the Women's March, and I was like, this is so much more like dieting and food and what we choose to put on our plate, and how we really look at this in a bigger picture. It really all comes down to women's power being stripped away from us, and that we've been obedient as a society, us as women, and we can no longer do that. We have to take back our power. We have to own all of this, right? So when you were in the mud of dieting, or if you are currently in the mud of dieting, how many hours a day would you say that you spent thinking about food and body image and numbers and whether you took your supplements that day and what clothes you were going to wear and what you'd eat when you met your friends for dinner or whatever? How much time would you say you spent on that, or are you currently spending thinking about all these things? Is it consuming 80 to 90% of your life, would you say? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like all the time, 1 being never, tell me how often you feel that you've been consumed by thinking about diets. Answer in the comments below how much it's consuming you. So diets, like I said, they distract us from the things that are really important in life. Rochelle says 9 to 10. That's your life right there. That's your life. If that's all you're thinking about, almost 90 to 100% of your time, that's a lot. It's a lot. And I've been there. I mean, I've totally been there. And the amount of time I had when I stopped thinking about diets, it was insane. I was like, what do I do with all this free time? It's amazing. It's friggin' amazing. Right? So diets distract us from what's really important in life, right? They condemn us to certain body types, and they have us being distracted from experiencing all the true joy in our lives and with food. Something that is there to be nourishing and enjoyable and pleasureful. Food, right? We feel stripped from that, right? And diets that keep us from experiencing connection and joy with others as well, because we're so caught up in our thoughts and what we have to do and the obedience of how we have to do it, right? Diets also tell us that we are not worthy of love until we are the right size, that we have always had this fixing to do, right? But none of these things that diets tell us about ourselves are true. They are not truthful. Diet culture pretends to be all about health and has even begun to feel like some sort of religion. It's like a cult nowadays, right? You are either good or you are bad if you eat certain foods. It's like this cleanliness or like this dirtiness. It's one of the two, right? Clean or unclean, I guess you could say. Dieting has gone way too far. It is out of control. It's out of control. And diets predict weight gain and eating disorders. That is where this takes you. You're either going to regain your weight back the more that you diet, because your body is going to start working in a way that's like, oh my God, you're going to starve again. I have to start storing all this food. Or it turns into a full-blown eating disorder or disordered eating. And that's what happened to me. It started out with good intentions, but then it turned into me having extreme disordered eating with food, right? I was so incredibly disconnected. And here's some stats I'm going to throw down for you in case you didn't know. 95% of diets fail. 95% of diets fail. And most of the people who do go on a diet will regain their lost weight within 1 to 5 years. Within 1 to 5 years, they'll regain that weight. Here's another one. 35% of occasional dieters progress in pathological dieting, which is disordered eating. And as many as 25% advance to full-blown eating disorders. Okay? Dieting is not normal. It's not normal. In fact, it leads to a road of more disconnection and more pain and more sorrow, and it doesn't bring you home at all. It disconnects you from who and what you truly are. Okay? Is this hitting home for you? Is this hitting home? On a scale of 1 to 10, let me know how much this is clicking for you. I know this is a really deep and raw and honest conversation. This is probably the most honest I've been about the dieting industry yet. And I know I have a harsher tone to my voice tonight than I normally do, but honestly, this needs to be addressed in this way, because it really, guys, it really is getting this bad. It really, really, really is. Also, I want to know, through all of this frustration and through all this, this chaos, I guess you could say, that's going on with the dieting industry and how it's turning into this big political thing and how it's really become this big religion, I will ask this and say this. Would you say that the anti-diet culture is on the rise? Would you say that it is on the rise, the anti-diet culture? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments below. And do you think that it's working? Why or why not? The anti-diet culture. Have you guys seen it on the rise? So I would say that in the last, I'm going to say like 3 years or so, in the last 3 years or so, I think that the anti-diet culture has just started to boom. It's really, I feel like a lot of people are really starting to wake up to this, which is super exciting. People who oppose diets and the damage that they do, I can really tell that people are really starting to come together. It's happening. And I really do believe that like the next generation of psychologists and dietitians and health professionals, I really do think that we are going to take down diet culture. And that is like liberating, right? It's so stinking exciting. But here's something I want to say about that. Before I do that, just jumping in the comments, Rochelle just said, yes, it's rising. I'm still learning, so I feel like my opinion on it is still naive. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fair enough. Thanks for being so honest, Rochelle. Thanks for being so honest. It is, yeah, and it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of unconditioning, I guess you could say, right? And pretty much like tearing yourself apart of everything that you've learned and known, and then re-putting yourself back together. So I can understand why your opinion might feel that way. But yeah, so I truly believe like the next generation of psychologists and dietitians and health professionals, I really do think that we are going to be taking down diet culture. And this is like super liberating and really, really exciting. But here's the thing. We also need to teach health professionals about weight bias and weight stigma. Okay? Because I feel like a lot of health professionals still talk about weight loss. They still talk about certain body types and sizes and BMIs, right? Even though they're trying to be against diet culture, they're still having those types of conversations, which I don't necessarily agree with. Because the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual destruction that comes from weight obsession is extremely harmful to our health. So yes, maybe the physical body, yeah, you're losing weight, but what are also the side effects of that? That pressure to fit into that box, right? Like what is, like health isn't just the physical body, first of all. You know, it is the mental, it is the emotional, it is the spiritual body. So we need to really take all of that into account and really look at this as a whole. And is the pressure of weight loss really helping and benefiting in those other areas? I'm not sure that it is, right? I feel like that obsession is far more harmful to our health, even more so than like eating a slice of cake that's packed full of sugar. Sorry, I do. I really, really think that obedience, right, like we talked about, is far more harmful. And diets are sneaky manipulators, you know, they really are. Like the diet industry, it's super sneaky. And it's so friggin' smart, like I said, that we often don't even know that we're being manipulated. Right? Because consumers are not talking about diets in the traditional sense anymore. And I really wanted to bring this up because it's kind of like something I've really been seeing. And they're not talking about diets in the traditional sense, right? They used to be all about like buying certain foods for like programs and whatnot. But now like dieting food, right? Like I kind of mentioned at the beginning. But now they're kind of going to this place of using words like whole and wellness and balanced, right? Because the diet industry knows that dieting isn't like the sexy or fashionable word anymore, right? They know that. They know that people have been catching on. So they're trying to tie it up in a bow in a different way and market it as something different, right? And they also know that many people still do want to lose weight. They do know that. And they are using that by increasing the push on good nutrition and healthy eating, right? And companies and consumers are being bombarded by this whole talk about going gluten-free and sugar-free and cholesterol-free and all of the free, right? But unfortunately, it's gotten us to this very bad place because people don't know what to think anymore. They don't know what to trust. They don't know what's right. They don't know what's wrong. And that's why I fully feel that in order to heal your relationship with food and your body, you first have to work through, first of all, your relationship with food, but also the thought processes that go on behind your relationship with food. What is underneath the food? The thoughts that are going on underneath the food. That is so incredibly important before you can start eliminating and cutting out all these things out of your diet, like sugar and gluten and whatever other food sensitivities you might have, like dairy. Those things should definitely come secondary to rebuilding your relationship with food. That absolutely has to come first, okay? It absolutely does, okay? Because otherwise we're just getting really caught up and trapped in like what this conversation looks like, right? Does that make sense, you guys? Does that make sense? Yeah. Rochelle says, Exactly. Just because I'm over the BMI doesn't mean all my body problems are to blame on my weight. Oh God, no, definitely not. And yeah, I feel like the health industry uses that chart. Oh, like it's not okay. No. Yeah, health is so much more than just the physical body. It's so much more than the physical body, right? Um, so yeah, really start to pay attention to that and what health professionals are saying. And you know what? It's not that they're necessarily against you. They just might not be educated in how they're promoting things is impacting the consumers. They really might not be educated. Their heart might be in the right place, but it's a big problem that we're having, and this is why I really wanted to talk about this tonight. I really wanted to shine a light on it. And if you are currently kind of stuck in the mud of dieting, or you're feeling kind of confused by this conversation, and you're like, oh, like I don't really know if I'm dieting or if I'm not dieting, then I created a quick and easy quiz you can take, and it helps you to kind of clear the diet mentality or figure out where you're at on the road to ditching diets, and if you're stuck in the mud of dieting or if you're kind of getting your way out of it, and sort of what your next steps should be. It's like a 2-minute quiz that you can take, and that should help you to kind of get situated on where you're at on this journey. And it's a really, really great place to start. So you can take that by hitting the link in my bio on Instagram. You'll see the Detox from Diets quiz. And then on Facebook, I'm going to drop the link as well as my 2-week introductory program, Reconnect with Food, because those are 2 really, really good resources that I think could really help. So I'll drop the link for that, okay? All right, so now that we've sort of chatted about this big conversation on why you need to toss out the ideas that dieting is normal, I just want to kind of recap for a second and kind of go into everything that we talked about for you, okay? So just to recap, I really want you guys to see that it is time to engage in our politics and understand that our privilege is to stand up against dieting and body oppression. This is so incredibly important if we want to change this thing, okay? It's also time for us to feel more at home in our own skin. And it's time to end the normalization of diets and fat phobia. This is a huge thing that we need to get on board with as well. Okay. Also, please know that diets and diet marketing and propaganda are sneaky manipulators, and they're so freaking smart that at times we don't even know that we're being manipulated. So if you're ever unsure, reach out to me. Feel free to direct message me. I'm giving you full permission, and ask me, hey, this is what I'm looking at. Does this sound like a diet? I would love to help you with that. So feel free to reach out, or you can continue to follow me and get more into these live conversations that I do. I do it every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single week. And you can also catch up on previous episodes on turnupthelove.ca. I've got a ton of resources there that you can listen to, other live episodes that I think will really help you to start to get a grasp on this conversation. Okay? And if you're sick and tired of falling for the diet industry's tricks, and you're feeling pissed off by the manipulation, and you're ready to ditch diets in 2018, like I said, take that quiz. I think it's really going to help you to figure out what steps you need to do next. It's multiple choice, super easy, and I think it's really going to help support you here, okay? And again, I also have a 2-week Reconnect with Food introductory program. If you really want to heal your relationship with food and get behind the thoughts and ideas that are going on and how you're thinking about food and how you're relating to food, and you really want to get to the bottom of what's going on here before you start cutting out things, like I said, like sugar and gluten and all these things that people are telling you to do, and you want to rebuild that trust, my 2-week intro program is an awesome way to get started. It's pretty low investment for what it is. It comes with meditations. It comes with audios. It comes with workbooks. It comes with a food diary. It's absolutely amazing, and it will totally get you on the right track in the intuitive eating journey. So you can check that out as well. I'm going to drop all the links for you, and you can grab all the links on both social media channels on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram links are in the bio, and Facebook, I always leave them in the comments or in the caption after the video. So you can check that out. If you are going to be hanging out with me for the month of February, here's what you can look forward to in February. So in the month of February, we're actually going to be going into the theme of self-love. I mean, of course, it is the month of love, isn't it? So we're going to be talking all about self-love in the month of February. I'm also going to be relaunching the Back to Love Challenge, which is going to be relaunching for the third time, 3 times the charm. I think this is going to be the biggest, most active challenge yet. And this time I've actually decided to run the Back to Love Challenge as a month-long challenge. It's actually going to be spread out across 5 weeks, and it's going to be going on during the month of March. So I'm going to be sharing more about this in the weeks ahead and how you can join and how you can get started. It's going to have a very own private Facebook group. There's going to be content every week. There's going to be workbooks for it. It's going to be so incredibly awesome, and it's going to be absolutely free to join. So if you've been struggling with self-esteem issues, you've been struggling to love your body, you've been struggling to accept yourself, then this is totally the challenge you're going to want to get in on. So keep an eye out, continue to watch this space, and you'll be hearing more about it in the weeks ahead. I'm going to actually be launching it on the week of Valentine's Day, where you'll be able to sign up and get started and get ready before the first class starts in March. Okay? So I hope you guys have an amazing night. Thank you so much for joining me on tonight's live conversation. I know we got into a lot of juicy stuff tonight. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything we chatted about today, feel free to drop me some questions or comments in the comment section below, and I'd be happy to jump in and get back to you. Otherwise, have an amazing night, and I will see you guys next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another episode of Turn Up the Love Live. I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.